What's up, Black Comic Lords? Once again, we're on with another dope edition of Lightning Strikes, our recap show of the Black Lightning series with the veritable master writer himself, Mr. Brandon Thomas.
I'm trying to be. Hey, what's up, y'all?
You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
All right. Y'all checking us out?
I just found out some exciting extras that are going to be included in the upcoming Black Lightning trade. So we'll talk about that next time. But
next time,
yeah,
issue number 5.
Yep.
All right. So if you're watching us, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed to the channel. It costs you nothing. And please share the video so that we can spread the word of Black Comic Lords and try to get more subscribers to the channel. We appreciate each and every one of you. So let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Let's bring up. Where did we leave off?
The conclusion of issue 3.
All right. So let's talk about what happened at the end of issue 3. In our last dope episode of Lightning Strikes, Black Lightning had his daughter taken away from him by the Justice League because they thought she might explode and be too violent. Right when he was having a heartfelt moment. They're trying to talk him down. But Jefferson, she was a danger. We didn't know if you could contain her. I was talking to her down, man. She's my kid. Let her father be a father. And, you know, Jefferson's starting to get heated, and Batman, listening, watching, does what Batman does. Pokes the bear. Pokes the bear. He pokes the damn near lightning god guy who could literally fry him in his cow if he so chose. And says, because she's dangerous, Jefferson, just like you. It's almost like if he had just added the word people on the end of that, just like you people. If he had added people like that, I swear Jefferson would have killed him where he stood. So Jefferson felt some kind of way about that and took it personally. And this is where he ended issue 3. Jefferson versus the Justice League. Fans have been waiting a whole month for the big slapdown between Black Lightning and the Justice League. Look at these covers. That cover A with Jefferson staring there. That's masterful work right there.
Yeah, that's my favorite cover of the set that FICO did.
Yeah. I mean, the reflection of the Justice League in his glasses, the way the electricity is just trickling off of his beard and everything. Incredible.
Everybody check out FICO's Twitter feed. You can actually see he posted a couple of process shots of this cover, and you can see some of the other layouts that he submitted before we picked this one.
That's what's up.
So cool.
And then we got the middle cover by my man Karen Grant.
Yes, love Karan. Big Karan fan. So
dude is on full power. Yes. And then on the right, is this Ryan Benjamin?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Black History Month cover, I believe.
Black History Month cover, Jefferson's flexing, which is indicative of where his mental state is. He's about to flex on the Justice League. So here we go. The moment we waited an entire month for. Black Lightning versus Justice League.
Yep.
Jefferson swings, and he misses. And he misses.
Nice strobe effect there by Ulysses. FICO did most of that, but Ulysses, our colorist, pushed it a little bit.
And he misses again until Wonder Woman stops him. and he comes out of breath. Wah, wah, wah. Brandon?
Yeah?
I got to be honest with you. I was a little disappointed.
That's okay.
Now look, what you did here makes absolute sense. It's Superman. Ain't nobody beating Superman. But could you at least have had my boy get one lick in? Just one little tap on Superman.
No. But I mean,
yeah,
I wanted to.
Superman is
And there
Superman.
were, so here's what's like I love this. So the funny thing is, like, whenever you do the stuff, there's the stuff that you want to do, and then there's the stuff that actually makes sense to do. And I love Jefferson. I love his power set. But Jefferson's power set does not include enhanced speed. So conceivably, there's no way that he could hit Superman. If Superman didn't actually know that he was trying to hit him. Maybe if he hit like Superman in the back of the head, and even then, the enhanced hearing. So there were a couple of choices here. I always liked that there's a moment in Death of the Family. I think it's called Death in the Family. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the most recent one. Death in the Family, the Jason Todd, the death of Jason Todd, which was actually one of the first like comics I went and kind of like sought out, even though I was completely obsessed with Tim Drake at the time. And there's a great scene where Batman swings on Superman and hits him and like almost breaks his hand. And there's a great kind of bit where Superman is like, yes, I turned out of the way, I turned out of the way at the very last second so you wouldn't shatter your hand. And so that was kind of like the option. So either we have the Superman do the like, oh, I glanced out of the way, so that you didn't like completely like paralyze yourself, or I just kind of move out of the way and kind of wait until, we kind of settle down a little bit and come back to ourselves. So those were essentially the two choices.
Well,
because
the third choice would have been have, Jefferson just break his hand against Superman's face.
Sure, if he didn't need his hands for the rest of the story, but yeah, I wasn't considering that as a real choice. But it was one of those things where the point that wasn't the point. As much as I liked the kind of idea of it, and I liked the kind of visual of it, it actually wasn't the point. The point is what Jefferson says after, Diana wraps his hand in the lasso, which is basically kind of like the confession moment. And that was the point.
Yeah.
Him basically all of this, this entire conversation that they had in the previous issue, this is actually what Jefferson was saying.
And I noticed that he makes this statement
in a few
while he has lasso on.
Right, because the lasso is affecting him.
Right.
So the lasso makes you tell the truth. So in essence, this moment was the point. And the point wasn't whether or not he got to hit Superman. The point is that he was willing to hit Superman. The point is the intent. The point is that at the moment in time, he didn't care about his hand, right? He was trying to make a point that for this, he's willing to swing on Superman. He's willing to do something that is, obviously physically dangerous to him, and which jeopardizes the entire point of this. The point is he wants to see his daughter. He wants an opportunity to fix this, to explain things, and that was actually the point. So despite my very healthy appetite for what you're talking about, at the end of the day, this is just one of those things where you're just like, it doesn't make sense for the story. It doesn't make sense for the story. And also, it was funny. Initially, this sequence was like much longer. Like he was kind of like swinging on Superman for like 2 pages. But ultimately, I didn't have 2 pages to waste on that. Like, as cool as it kind of was, like in the notes. And so ultimately, it was just one of those things where, you just can't, you just couldn't have it. You just for this story, for what the actual mission is, it just doesn't make sense. And I mean, I intentionally did that, right? I mean, I could have done it if the point was Jefferson actually fights Superman. There's a way to do that where it actually works, but it's not them standing face to face with each other, them watching him, blow, like them watching him and his anger level kind of rising out of control. And then, they have like a fist fight that is kind of, it's cool, but it was kind of meaningless along those lines.
I think, some people have made some comments in the chat. This issue came out during Black History Month. Gosh darn it. Batman's the one who really set him off, right?
Right.
Batman's the one who should have been catching them hands.
Right. That's true.
And then Batman couldn't have dodged it. Batman should have got some. I'm just saying. Batman should have got a little, knocked on.
But again, that's not the point. He could have hit Batman. That doesn't mean anything. The point was that he's willing to swing on Superman. Batman's just talking. That's all he's doing is running his mouth, which is what Batman likes to do, which is fun because he doesn't talk that much, but when he does, it's like, man, just stop talking, please.
Batman and his plans, but everybody has their plans until they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying. I understand the appetite for that. I have it too, but in the story, it didn't make any sense. And ultimately, whether it's cool or not, if it doesn't make any sense, it can't stay in. So there were versions of it that kind of stayed in, but there's a reason why he doesn't swing on Batman, because he can hit Batman. That's not the point. To him, that doesn't make any. The point is not the superpower dude can hit the person without powers. The point is that he's willing to swing on the most powerful person in the space to prove his point. And the point is this moment right here in these lines. So that entire, 2 to 3 page argument that they have in the previous issue, this panel and what Jefferson is saying in here is what is actually being said. With all of the kind of, basically, I wanted to have a moment that cut through all of kind of the artifice, that cut through all of this kind of posturing that they were doing on both sides.
Right.
And this is basically the point. This is Jefferson's point, ultimately. And so
everything you just said makes absolute sense, is completely logical, makes story sense. I get it. I agree with it. But Batman still should have gotten pimp slapped a little bit for talking out of his mouth. I'm just saying. I'm moving on. I'm gonna let it go. It was a cool moment along the lines of his declaration, his revelation of truth, how important his daughter is to him, and how much it deeply hurt him. For them to interfere with a moment that he was having with his daughter. It was cool, and just a couple panels, you're just showing that he's still talking to his daughter, trying to reach out to her. He doesn't know whether or not she's hearing him, whether she's responding, whether she's feeling what he's saying, but he's still going at it. And I thought that was a cool moment in a very few amount of spaces, which circles back a little bit later. So he moves on.
Oh, space. Don't get me started.
Space. Man, let me tell you, one of the things, just to go on a little bit of a tangent, I remember doing this interview with Eve Ewing once. She talks about how, unfortunately, when creators are only given a limited amount of issues to tell a story that could be much more expansive, certainly can't contain their imagination and creativity. You have to it's always a struggle to contain your story within a certain amount of space.
Yes.
So I appreciate that, and that's why I always note
when choices.
Right. That's why I always note, from both an artistic and a writing perspective, because you're storytellers working in tandem, how you have to do more in a very small amount of space. So I dig that. This was a cool scene. The Justice League has their watchtower in space. And me being the sci-fi nerd that I am, Star Trek rules everything. You have a holodeck.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
Well, I wanted to, like you said, space is always at a premium, and any kind of opportunity that we get to inject a little more, I don't want to say history, but anytime we get to inject kind of the past of these characters into the story, it always helps. It always serves the story, and it's always worth doing. And just like you, I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but I am a big, holodeck and, hard light hologram fan. And so we talked about this particular scene quite a bit, in which environment that we wanted him to kind of have reflected in his apartment, so to speak, the apartment next door to Anissa's. And we chose the tailor shop. There are a couple other things we thought about. We thought about, spots at the school, maybe one of his kind of first kind of how, the interior of one of his first houses that we actually saw in the book. But the tailor shop was definitely, high on the list for something, because we wanted something that would be instantly recognizable to kind of multiple fans, because there were certain locations that were kind of comic references. There were other locations that were more TV show references. So we wanted to try to pick one that could kind of cut across the reference points if we could. And so this is we chose Gamby's tailor shop for this, and it turned out excellent, because FICO, you can draw anything. And this again was one of those situations where something else, we're talking about space. When I wrote maybe the first issue or 2 issues, me and FICO had done a 10-page Aquaman story before, but I really didn't feel like I knew him. So the more issues we did and the more pages that he kind of produced, I felt like I was developing kind of a better understanding of the type of things that he excels at drawing, and also the type of kind of pacing that, if you notice, I tried to cut down my kind of average panel count per page and get it closer to 5. When I started, I think it was closer to 6, but I found that if I gave FICO one less panel per page, that he could basically show off and spread out a little more. So, I mean, it's not perfect. Obviously, there are a couple of pages in here where I did have to go for those 6 panels, but this is a perfect kind of example of me figuring out that I needed to give him a little more space so that he could really kind of explode these panels and these moments, you know, out, and really give him like a larger canvas to work in without, you know, boxing them in. So this is just a little, you know, it was just a little moment that we thought that people would appreciate, and that we definitely appreciated, just to show something, a space where he felt like most comfortable, like most at home, because the idea here is that he's going to stay basically in this room until Anissa is ready to go home. That's essentially what is happening here. Like, that is the gesture, that is the expression that he's making to her in this particular moment, that he is going to, you know, he's going to be, you know, right next door for, you know, if she needs anything, or not even if she needs anything, because he knows that it's something that she wants, and it's something that she's never going to verbalize to him. And you know, it's a big moment for them both in the series. This is definitely like the turning point issue where we start to kind of steer her back to herself after a couple of issues of being kind of you know, kind of defeated and kind of shameful, and so this is kind of this is something that he is doing to express to her that, you know, her you know, that her father is here, and that, you know, he's not going away, and he's not going to give up, even if she's upset with him or disappointed in him, that he is, you know, that they're going to go home together when it's time to go home. So.
And this room is also kind of important because, you know, in the original series, this is the room that created him, right? This is where he made the conscious decision. I'm going to be a superhero. I'm going to be Blacklightning, and Gamby creates him a costume, wig, and everything. So it's kind of like a reaffirmation of, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? Why am I putting myself in danger when I have a wife and I've got family? Why am I making that conscious decision to go and help others at my own peril, and the peril of my family? You know, this is like the reminder of that. Having this particular room is a tremendous reminder of that. So that's cool, because especially given the larger story of how he's struggling with that concept of his daughter saying, "You're always choosing being a superhero over being my father." So this is kind of the reminder. So I thought that was the apropos choice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of like a new beginnings choice, you know, as she is beginning kind of this new phase of her kind of existence as a superhero. It's just a, you know, just a little reminder of, you know, where we all started, and it means something that he's kind of returning back to it at this critical moment.
All right. So we then link up with Isaac, the kid who was found and was captured by the Masters of Disaster, the quote unquote villains of the story. And we meet this one character. Who's this one character that we have?
This is Windfall.
Windfall. So how many members of the Master Disaster are there?
I believe there's 4, maybe like a floating 5th. There's Windfall and Volcana, Groundswell, Shakedown. I think that's our main 4. I didn't use initially, you know, Isaac is kind of the 5th member in this issue.
That seems kind of spoilerish right there.
Yeah, kind of. He's kind of, I don't want to call him like a hostage, but his situation is definitely not, he's not fully embracing the things that he's doing. There's a bit of an inducement as to why he's kind of rolling with them for the time being.
The assumption in the last issue was that he was captured by them for some unknown reason. Jefferson and his daughters are trying to find him. And, in this interaction with the Masters of Disaster, he starts to realize they're not what they appear to be. He's with his mother. He's reunited with his mother. So he's like, they didn't harm her. They're actually being kind to her. They remove his restraining and say, hey, you don't technically need that.
Right.
Let's show you. You don't need that. You can actually control your powers, which is something he was not aware of.
Yes. Or was something he was afraid. I think it was more kind of fear and anxiety based. It was the fear that he couldn't control his powers.
Right.
That they kind of inverted the kind of Justice League's more kind of safety posture and turned it into more of like a trust posture. Like, we don't need to have all of these, what if this happens? What if you get out of control? What if we're going to trust that you can control your abilities when you need to, and then relying on these power dampeners and all of this stuff is basically harming you because you're not actually forcing yourself to learn how to control and master your own abilities because you're essentially leashed, at all times. So,
and the other thing that's interesting, this name, Masters of Disaster. Now, one could chalk it up as being just another cheesy villain name,
Mm-hmm.
But when you really start to see it the first time, when you see this issue and you see them interacting, and you got Volcana talking about the Sons of Liberty and pointing out those are the real villains here. Those guys are a hate group parading around as some type of advocacy group, and they're really just a hate group, and we saved you from them.
Right.
I started to realize that the play on the Masters of Disaster name reminded me of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. When Magneto came on the scene in X-Men back in the 60s, it was later explained, I almost want to dare say a retcon in a way, that why would you call yourself the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants if you didn't want people to be afraid of you? And he's like, it was a play on words at the time because mutants were viewed as being evil. So we're playing on the fact that you have these silly prejudices against mutants, and so we're calling ourselves the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants as a mocking name. We're mocking you by calling ourselves that. And so the Masters of Disaster strikes you as like these are people that are like terrorists. They're anarchists. They're trying to be disruptive. And from these people's perspective, the Masters of Disaster, yes, they are. We are like anarchists. We are antisocial. We are being disruptive, but we're being disruptive to the status quo. And that status quo is trying to stifle and imprison and capture and control people that have powers. So we're the Masters of Disaster because we see the discussions with Harriman and Josiah Power, the debate that they're having about whether superpowered people are, weapons of mass destruction, right? That's how Harriman's making them out to be. So these people are calling themselves, we're the Masters of Disaster, almost like in a mocking way. And so then this conversation sort of brings that home is what I interpreted it to be. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, the initial Masters of Disaster name belonged to an older group of like blacklightning / outsiders villains, and they were all like mostly mercenaries. So we wanted to kind of take what we did was we took their name, the Masters of Disaster, and we took their power sets and we kind of like changed it around. We kind of recontextualized it a little bit to make them, because the original Masters of Disaster were, always out for themselves. They were always out for money. They were, you could kind of, buy and sell them to the highest bidder. And so we wanted to give them a slightly different mission statement. So we basically wanted to give them like a rebranding. So we took their name in some of their powers, but their goals and their kind of MO, we definitely changed for our story in a way that is, a lot less, I don't know if you'd call it overt, but it's just like, we definitely did that on purpose. That was a definite choice to kind of give them a rebranding and give them a mission that was very different from the mission that this team used to have. So yeah, definitely.
And we've got the scene with John Henry, the Steels, because I think Natasha Irons also goes by the name Steel. They're like Steel and Steel.
Yes. Yeah.
I just like seeing them in the book. I see them because they're kind of like the two superhero families.
Yes.
The Pierces and the Henrys, or I guess she's not Henry, but you know what I mean.
Right. The Irons, yeah.
So I just thought it was kind of cool that you got these two black superhero families kind of interacting and helping each other.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about whether or not John was actually in his armor, and ultimately it was just like I think FICO was just like, yeah, it'll be cooler if he's in his armor. So I'm like, I want to draw his armor. It's like, okay, cool. So
and Natasha's not in her armor, and you remain true to form because the armor got wrecked in the last episode.
That was kind of the big, kind of bulky, not Hulkbuster, because there obviously is no Hulk. But I forgot what I have to ask Marquise. Marquise came up with a nickname for the heavy suit, and I forgot what it was. And so also I can't, announce any, but basically anytime I get to write either of these characters, I want to give them a different suit of armor. So if I get to write them again soon, maybe, look for new suits of armor. So every single time, I feel like I touch them, I want to leave them with a new suit of armor that they didn't have before. So
I highly recommend liquid metal nanites. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I don't know why it's important to me. There's another little tiny detail like that we'll get to very shortly. This one, the Justice League jumpsuit.
Oh, the jumpsuits are rocking. I mean, and this has got another one right in this one. She had a different one in the last issue.
She had a different color in issue 2, and so I don't want to say this was the most important thing about this issue to me, but I was very insistent. I'm like, she needs a new colorway on the jumpsuit. Like, we can't have her wearing the exact same one that she had in issue 2. So Ulysses flipped it, and if you notice, this is basically like a black lightning colored jumpsuit. So
tracksuits are making a comeback right now. Yesterday, I saw a Sam Wilson Captain America tracksuit that looked like legit. Like, it looked good. Like, it was fashionable. It wasn't like a cheesy adult male trying to dress like Sam Wilson. It looked like an actual tracksuit that was inspired by.
Was it just his colors, or did it have like the emblem on it too?
It had the emblems on it.
It had the star.
It didn't look cheesy, is what I'm saying. It actually looked fashionable. I remember last episode we talked about, maybe talking to DC about doing some of these track suits for real, these superhero inspired tracksuits. I would love it. That'd be
dope. It was very important. Yeah, very important for me for her to have a different color here. And then also, I love what FICO did. This was in the script, but I love what he did with it. I wanted her body language to be completely different from the last time we saw her with Miss Wallace. When we saw her back in the second issue, her body language was very closed and defensive and tight, and I wanted people to be able to see just immediately when you see her, you see that she's more relaxed. She's more comfortable. She's more talkative. I wanted you to just see from the body language the change that is starting to happen with her. And this was a pretty cool moment and scene to write. So I was very, very happy with this
one. Hit the like button, everybody. If you're joining us and you have not hit the like button, just take a second and just tap that button.
Takes a second.
And share the video on your socials. Just take a second. All right. So speaking of tapping stuff, Jefferson has this cool little scene where you have him tap the wall to let his daughter know that he's there. Explain the motivation on this.
Well, it was one of those. It was just an extension of this idea of him. Like, my daughter's here. My daughter's in this room. I'm staying in the room right next to her, and we're staying here together until she's, ready to go. And I thought that this was a little cool way for them to interact regularly without having to interact, because I wanted Jefferson to kind of do this in a way where he didn't kind of put any pressure on her to kind of, if she's not ready, to talk with him or interact with him, then that doesn't matter. Like, to him, that doesn't matter, but he wants her to know that he is there. And this is just a very kind of low impact, very low stakes way of, letting her know that he's there and he's going to keep being there. And so I just thought it was something that was super cool and something that really made sense, and something that she would appreciate, because I think that after everything that's happened, he doesn't want her to feel any additional pressure. Like, he doesn't want to kind of put the pressure on her to we need to hash this out, or we need to figure out where we are, or, we need to apologize to each other. I think he wants to put the least amount of kind of emotional kind of pressure on her. And this is just a very kind of low impact way of him to kind of signal to her that he's, that he's there.
As a girl dad myself, I keep saying this, but I appreciate these little moments you put in here. It just reminds me of, my own relationship with my daughter and how important she is to me. And if I was in this position, I'd probably do a similar thing. Even if I'm distant from my daughter, I would want her to know that I'm there, and I will always be there for her. So I thought that was a really nice moment. Yeah,
man. I mean, these are the things that you're always trying to find, like these little emotional moments. You're always trying to to orchestrate them, and at some point, you can, even when you're telling a story, sometimes there are things that, I mean, at least for me, I've never figured out every single thing. Like, even if I have an outline, even if I have a good plan, like, until I put it on the page and feel good about it, everything is kind of in flux. And this was kind of one of those little things, little ideas that just kind of came in at the end, and it really kind of unlocked this issue and kind of what I was trying to do with it from the script standpoint. And it's those little moments that you kind of set yourself up to discover, because I never know every single thing that I want to do, in a scene, in an issue. And I found that, if you can figure out kind of 8 or 10 things, but leave a couple of little things to kind of discover while you're doing it, it makes it so much more kind of interesting and immediate. I found that I don't like to plan every single detail out before I sit down to actually write the script. And I found that a lot of my kind of pleasure and enjoyment from writing is discovering those little things, those little kind of connective, the little pieces of connective tissue that make everything kind of fit together, in the right way, while feeding into the main theme. And this is one of those little things that once I came up with this, it kind of solved problems like in multiple kind of sequences, and then everything kind of fit together like, you know, even more. And so it's cool.
Yeah, it also reminds me of the fact that he's not just a superhero. He's also an example of a super dad. That's what kind of what sets this story apart, is these little moments. Is your
He's the standard.
anyone can just do a superhero,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got a superhero who's also trying to be a super father.
Mm-hmm.
So that little element is, I think, important, particularly for our community.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a strong Black father,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we don't see a lot of in comics.
Mm-hmm.
That makes these moments all the more important because they're so rare.
Yeah. And this is what, you know, and not to keep going back to it, but when you kind of discover things like this, then it's like, okay, yeah, it wasn't important for him to hit Superman. So like these are the kind of things that happen like in the process that kind of reaffirm like what you're supposed to be doing. And so it's kind of one of the things that kind of makes me feel better about you know, if you have certain sequences where you're like, oh man, you know, I wish this was longer, I wish I had more space for this, I wish, you know, whatever. But then when you find little moments like these and they work, it reminds you that like, yeah, this is the point. Like this is actually the point of what you're supposed to be doing. So
yeah.
You know.
But then,
this is a great sequence. I love this one too.
As any good, strong Black father will tell you, sometimes you got to teach your daughter how to kick ass.
Yeah.
And so, as typical in this whole run, you always have your big splash, epic action
Yeah,
page.
that double page splash. I'm
The
doing
double
it. I'm
page
doing
splash.
it.
It's a Brandon Thomas special. And what's interesting, because you know I'm always looking for little moments here. I'm looking at her opponents. You've got Wonder Woman, you've got Katana, you got Steel, and you got Black Lightning. Now you think about DC's Trinity: Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. And all three are represented here because Katana is with the Outsiders, which is Batman's group. And you've got Steel representing Superman's family. And then you've also got her father. So in essence, Jefferson is training his daughter, but he's also training his daughter against the three pinnacle superheroes of the DC universe. He's giving her the best training that's available. So I thought that was cool. Did you do that on purpose?
Yes. Well, yes and no, because there was the original, I think the original version of this actually had Thunder fighting Superman as kind of like a mirror of, you know, what happened at the beginning of this issue. And Marquise was like, you know what? Let's use the Steels. Like, let's use them instead of Superman.
Yeah.
And so initially that is kind of what it was. It was kind of like Justice League family, Batman family, Superman family. And everyone was going to be here except for Batman. And we were going to, so we talked about using, Katana was like, I don't know if our first or second choice, but it was either going to be Katana or Nightwing. And I think what happened was we were trying to, I was trying to figure out kind of like if we wanted her. I didn't want her only facing off against other like female superheroes, but for a while, I feel like the first version of this might have been that, and then we kind of swapped Superman in, and then we swapped him out for. I think initially it was just going to be John. And then we're like, no, let's use Natasha too. And then that made even more sense that both of them show up, like I believe on like the previous page. And so we really did want to do that, like as far as like the family aspect of it, have like, Justice League family, Batman family, Superman family. But some of the characters did change around. And then at the end of the week, it was always her and Jefferson kind of facing off. So this was another fantastic, artistic moment from FICO out of many. And, that's what one of the things that I'm talking about. We did a couple of double page splashes in the beginning. And when we started them, I didn't know there was going to be one in every single issue, but they looked so good. Like FICO, like really, really enjoyed doing them. And so it was just like, yeah, we're doing one every issue.
You got to.
And so there will be another one in the final issue. So look forward to that.
Are you going to be talking to FICO between now and our next episode?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are wrapping up the 5th issue now, so we're talking.
Do me a favor and ask him if he has the original art to this.
Okay, yeah, I have to ask him if he's doing it on boards or digitally.
Because I would definitely like to buy this original art from him. Just let him know.
I think you have your eye on a couple pieces from this. So yeah.
Also, the cover for this issue.
Yeah. Oh, that cover. I may take that cover. So if it's available,
for real. The man's doing some great artwork.
Yeah.
So we have this moment.
Oh, I love this one.
This is another one of those family moments that makes this book kind of dope. You don't waste like a lot of pages on it, but it's good that you throw it in there. You even throw it after this big action sequence. Change in pace. You're very good on your pacing.
It was kind of like a week. It's just kind of like a week in her life. So
right.
Week in her development.
You just have a big sister, little sister moment. I mean, you've got Lightning, who at this point is more powerful than her older sister because she's got powers. But the older sister's more experienced. She has trained more with her father, has had more history training with her father. And so now she's imparting knowledge to her younger sister. And it's a double step thing because one, you're showing the jealousy that you saw in the previous issues is not a factor here. She's at the point where she's more comfortable with where she is. She's accepting who her father is, and she's trying to help her sister. So all of that within just a couple panels, just good storytelling.
Thank you. I love this scene. I call this the game tape page. So I loved this idea of, these, two black sisters watching Jen make some mistakes, and her big sister like, no, this is how you're supposed to do it. Like, this is why did you do that? And not only that, but just give her a hard time about how Volcana is like hitting her in the face. And so it felt to me very kind of like good natured, like sibling teasing, but also with that, like, here, like, let me tell you how to do this. Like, this is like what Dad used to like drill into me constantly. And so, and it also provides the opening that happens at the end of this page where Jen is called away by her father, and Anissa finds a really cool way to kind of inject herself into what they're doing, where she
breaks herself, the dude in the chair.
Yeah, right. That she, basically asks her sister, hey, you still got those goggles with like the really good camera in them? Like, I'm not doing nothing, right? I'm just sitting here. So if you wanted to, you could kind of put those on, and I could kind of follow along and see what you're seeing. And again, it's another big moment, like you said, where she's kind of letting go of these kind of like feelings of kind of envy, and it's just she realizes that her family is not ashamed of her, like they're not disappointed in her, and she's just slowly coming back to it. And this was another cool way for her to kind of sink in to kind of what they're doing and kind of what the main plot is, another way for her to get herself involved. And it was very important, just like we're talking about Jefferson and being patient and the door knocks. It's also important that she is the one who asks to be involved, that they're not, forcing her to be involved. They're not kind of inducing her. She's kind of going at her own speed. And that's what this kind of issue is about and what Jefferson is doing. He's being patient, and she's letting her come back to herself at her own speed without him putting like pressure on her to kind of like, this should be happening faster. Like everything's going great. Why don't you, get back involved? And it's very important for her to make the decision that like, yeah, I'm ready to get more involved in like what's going on here. So big moment.
And then we catch up with Jesse, who's now being formally indoctrinated into
Isaac's
the Masters. Huh?
I said Isaac's new fit.
Isaac's new fit. Why am I getting hardware from Milestone Universe vibes from this fit?
Yeah, I don't know. This was just something we wanted it to be like a combination of like actual clothing, because we wanted it to be not kind of like fully developed, right? It's something that is still kind of like a work, and we wanted it to show like work in progress, that like this is not going to be like his final, kind of like costume or final look, but he's kind of working his way towards that. So
do we know what his power set is yet?
we haven't really revealed. We'll reveal it in the next issue, but we're still kind of playing around with it, keeping coy. So we have a couple. We're going to be revealing kind of like his power set officially, and then officially kind of explaining what Anissa's kind of enhanced power set is going to be. So stay tuned.
The Pierces assume Isaac is still a hostage of the Masters of Disaster, and they set out to go find him.
Yes.
Clue. Anissa.
Well, he actually leaves them a clue. Like he leaves a familiar symbol at the scene of one of their attacks that he believes Black Lightning will immediately recognize. It's basically like a distress signal. Like he wants to kind of show them that he is still out there, and that he does still need their help. So,
and Anissa has this moment, this almost Batman moment, where she's kind of tying together the various loose threads.
What was that name you said? You said Batman?
The guy in the cowl.
Keep that in mind going forward. But yeah, keep going.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So so she's tying all these threads together, and she's starting to look at the big picture. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And so they go out to try and find them, and they get ambushed.
Yes, they get ambushed, and they get their powers taken away again.
But what is my man doing right here?
It's another great panel.
Now, you just made this comment earlier about Jefferson does not have super speed. That's why Superman is able to dodge his punches.
Right.
But all of a sudden, he's doing something here. What's going on here?
Jefferson is getting some blows in at a highly intense rate. So this is why he couldn't hit Superman, because Jefferson still needed his hands. And so he needs his hands for this particular scene, and he definitely needs his hands in the final issue. So we didn't have time to break any of his fingers, because we know we were going to have a big, confrontation at the end of this issue, where Jefferson and Jennifer once again lose their abilities. Now, how long that holds, read issue 5. But I loved this moment so much, and I loved the I love the comment that Jennifer kind of gives to him, where she's like, "Oh, hey, so you've been, oh, that looked like some, like a Batman combo or something," and he's like, "Batman? No."
He's like, "Nah, baby, I'm from the slums. Better recognize." And you know what, baby? Not only am I from the slums, so are you. And they both throwing hands.
Yeah, this was so much fun. FICO like completely lost control when he got to this scene. Like he was not expecting this at all, and he was very happy. And like he said, "I'm glad I made Jefferson so big."
I mean, look, FICO got my man doing, change ups, running fades left and right, combos, and he's swole at the same time. All right, so just showing. I mean, my man can box.
Yeah, it was fun. This was a really fun moment, and I really wanted to revisit, because the series started with them losing their powers, and basically that moment made the entire story possible. So that Anissa could have her powers returned to him, her powers returned to her, and in kind of like an enhanced, uncontrollable state. I definitely wanted to revisit that and really kind of, to me, Jefferson and, his daughters would definitely have trained for if this ever happened again. If something ever happens and we have our powers taken away, like, we need to be ready, because to me, they were caught slightly unawares, like in that first issue, in that scene that took place during Absolute Power. And I really wanted to show that, they are still dangerous, even without their abilities. But
clearly they've been training with Catman or somebody.
What was that?
I said clearly they've been training with Catman or somebody. Somebody can box.
Yeah, it just
all right.
This was a great moment. This was something else that was really, really fun to write. And like I said, it made me feel better, about the Superman thing. So it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is, this is the point, ultimately. And these are kind of the real villains of the piece. Like this, hate group masquerading as like, oh, we're just looking out for you, and we just want everyone to be safe, and we just want to live in a world where we don't have to be afraid. And that's some bullshit. So
that's basically what I was saying. Like, the Masters of Disaster, you assume are the bad guys because of the name, but it's actually the ones with the superhero name, the heroic sounding name, the Sons of Liberty.
Right.
Those are the real villains in this.
Right. Yes.
So you end this on this cliffhanger.
Another one. Yes.
Here's our covers for issue 5. A little bit of a spoiler. Looks like Grace is coming back.
Looks like.
All right.
That's not a tease. She actually is.
She actually is coming back.
There's a very good scene with her when she kind of makes her re-emergence into Anissa's life. So, no, big things, big fights, big reveals.
Any significance to those red light things around Anissa? What is that?
Oh, like the crackle?
Yeah, the crackle.
Like the Kirby crackle? Yes.
Is that part of her new power set?
It is.
So we'll find out next issue.
So more of that in the 5th issue.
I really dig the cover to the right because it's got the whole family there looking super heroic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's Tom Rainey. So it's a great cover by him, and he drew he drew Outsiders for a little while. I think maybe when Judd Winnick was writing it, I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like he did draw some of Judd's run, so that's definitely like an Outsiders.
Tom Rainey's been around for a long time. He's drawn.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Thunder has a new suit too.
Yes, right? Yes. Yeah, you see a little of it in this issue during the training sequence, but you see a lot more of it next issue.
Okay.
Because I mean it's not a super spoiler, but
So like, what can we
at the moment we see them, Jefferson and Jen don't have powers. Who still has powers at this particular moment? So it's a slight spoiler, very slight.
We have one issue left.
Yes. As far as we know, we'll see.
As far as we know, so the jury's still out.
No, nothing has been decided yet. So there might be more, there might not be more. We don't know yet. But
is there anything we can do at this point? I mean, is the pre-orders done for issue 5 already? I would assume so.
The pre-orders are done for issue 5. I don't know how long it's going to take to make a decision, but by the next time we talk, I'll also know when the trade collection is going to be available to pre-order, and that will also be an important piece. If the decision hasn't been made by the time we get to the end of the series, if the trade does extremely well, that would be something else that could go into that decision of whether or not we're going to do any more.
Well, let us know. We'll be happy to.
And how Power Company is doing. So there's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But they have the document already. So if a decision is made, I am ready to go. So
you have your stories ready for that. Your story's already set and ready.
Yes. Well, the pitch is already in. My approach and what I call a document I call the year ahead. So
I hope the year ahead includes powers to Ling Stewart so that we can have our first Black Fantastic Four in the DC universe. Well, they wouldn't be the Fantastic Four. They'd be called, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We've had a lot of discussions about names too. Don't even get me started.
Yeah. Magnificent. I mean, I don't know. We'll come up with some type of cool.
Yeah.
Gadget. All right. So what can everyone expect in issue 5?
Oh, rapid fires? Okay.
What can people expect in issue 5? Brandon, what can everyone expect in issue 5?
A lot of action. A peek behind the curtain of who is really kind of orchestrating this whole thing and why. Yeah. And a little romance.
Romance, okay. Well, Grace is coming back, so it makes sense.
A little romance.
All right.
Which again, we'll talk about that next month, but that was also something that I kind of discovered while I was doing the final script.
So I think there are questions in the chat.
Okay. What we got?
Dr. Wizard, can you bring up our questions in the chat? I'm curious, was there any influence of Jefferson's frustration towards the Justice League from the Young Justice arc where the same thing happened? This is really dope. Shout out to Charles III.
Thank you, Charles. No, there wasn't a like a direct influence from that. I just really wanted. I mean, it was just there. It was kind of like so easy. It's very like low hanging fruit, to be honest. And it just really made sense for this particular story that we were telling. And there something that was more of a direct connection was Jefferson and Batman's relationship during Brian Hill's Batman and the Outsiders run. I knew that there was always the potential for Batman to say the wrong thing to Jefferson, given their history together. So that was kind of more of a direct link than the Young Justice arc.
Eclectic Blurty Nietzsche, who always asks dope questions. Is my fellow Yadi Karan Grant on all of the Black Lightning variant covers?
No, he's not doing all of them. He just did one for this issue. But I love Karan. Anytime I can write a book that has his cover on it, I'm down for it. He did a couple of covers during when I was writing a book called Noble for Lion Forge. He did a couple of the covers there too, and it was and it was an honor. I'm a huge Karan Grant fan from some of the first stuff he did. So I have an entire Karan sketchbook collection. I'd probably have maybe almost 10 of his sketchbooks. I have a bunch of his prints, framed and hung up. So I'm a big Karan fan. So eventually we'll do something together. I'll get some Karan interiors, and that'll be then after that I can just quit. Then I'm just done. I've done all I wanted to do. So
Damon Watson asks, I love what's happening at this point in the story. When you start signing books, I'm giving you the first issue and this one, probably all.
I will sign all of them. And I should be doing a couple of cons this year. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll probably do New York. I'll do the Denver con because that's local for me, and maybe one other one. But it's been a while since I've been on the circuit, so I'll get back out there as soon as I can.
And be on the lookout for our next episode of this show. Brandon is going to have some surprises for all of you, some signed surprises. I'm not going to say what, but
some surprise giveaways. So come with some good questions.
Yeah.
We haven't decided how we're gonna, give the material away, but we'll come up with something. So
we'll have Richard.
Different people can benefit.
We'll have Richard, our Black Lightning expert, ask some tough questions, some trivia questions. And see if people know the answers.
That could be fun.
We'll see if Richard's available.
Yeah. That could be fun.
We can see Black Lightning cut loose in a fight. Comics today has become more talking versus fighting. I want to see just how powerful Black Lightning really is. That's a good. No, that's not a question. That's a statement. But it does raise a very good question. Will we see Jefferson Pierce unleash in issue 5?
Yes, you will see him unleash. Well, see, I was about to tell you something. Yes. I was about to say too much. Yes.
All right. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad.
There will, I don't want to keep complaining about it, but space is at such a premium in a lot of these comics, and without getting too inside baseball, initially this series was one issue longer than it currently is, so that definitely impacted some of the kind of work we could do in this story. So let's just say that.
Oh, damn. I wish I had that extra issue.
Me too. This is what I'm saying. I would have had a little more space for a few more things with another 20 pages. I mean, I'm finally getting used to the fact that a comic is now standard comics are 20 pages versus 22s, which was a massive, massive adjustment for me to make just mentally. Like you don't think that 22 pages is like a big difference over 20, but it is. Like it absolutely is. And I've just now gotten to the point where I'm feeling kind of more at ease writing kind of like in the 20-page frame. Yeah. But no, those 2 pages, any page that you can get is just invaluable. So
is that official now? It's 20 pages? Wow.
Yeah. It's been official for probably the last, I would say at least 3+ years. Like a standard comic is 20 pages versus 22 pages.
Wow. We're getting less and it's costing more.
Yes.
Well,
true story.
I'm sure our tariffs will help with all of that. So James Thomason says, love the story. Can we get you another Black Lightning story after this wrap?
I hope so. They got a pitch. They have a pitch from me. I'm ready. As soon as they're ready, I'm ready. So we will see how the series ends up, and maybe how the trade does, and we'll see.
All right. Next, Damon says, will we get to see Nubia sometime to represent Wonder Woman's crew? I'm sure Thunder training with the Amazons would be dope. That would be dope.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We didn't talk too much about Nubia in this particular issue because I wanted to have a little connective tissue to the kind of Justice League confrontation. Like I felt like I needed to have one of them in that training scene, and it made sense that it was Diana, because Diana is the one that kind of helps to diffuse the kind of confrontation that's happening. And so it made sense for some, kind of Justice League member to kind of pull a little double duty. And I also kind of gave this away a bit, but, keep your eye on the guy with the Batman costume that talks too much. So the family hasn't seen the last of him in this story. So
I hope Jefferson Pierce gets his pimp slap on Batman.
Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. But he will appear at a critical moment. So
I don't want people to think I don't like Batman. I like Batman. That's one of my
favorites. I mean, we all like Batman, but
was the vision for Isaac's fit advanced steampunk? Was steampunk the influence for Isaac's outfit?
I don't know. I'd have to ask FICO. Actually, FICO came up with that idea. I think he just thought it really looked cool. Like he really liked the kind of gauntlets that connected to a thing like on his back. So I'm sure I'm sure that was one of the things he was looking at. But that's something else that I've also found, that especially in regards to kind of like character designs and stuff, if I don't have like a really, really, really like strong idea already, it's usually best to kind of just shut up and let the artist kind of, because I always try to think of it in this way. He's the artist, he or she is going to have to draw this thing kind of like over and over and over again. So if you let them draw something that they're like comfortable and excited with, I just feel like that's kind of like the least, the least that could be done, because they're putting in so much more work, like hours wise, than I am. So, anything that kind of makes their job like a little more enjoyable, it's definitely a good tip to do that. And, it helps not to be overbearing about everything. I know my scripts are very, very detailed and very specific. So when it comes to kind of the character designs and stuff, I just kind of tell myself, just be quiet. He'll figure out something cool. Don't worry.
Eclectic Birdie Niche says, since the Master of the Disaster have an elemental affinity, is Isaac's affinity metal?
Oh, that's a good notion. Not really, but that's a good idea. I like it.
Pericles Dragon Ball says an obscure DC character.
Oh, I remember him.
Muhammad X. He appeared in the last issue. He appeared once.
I think like Jeff Loeb wrote that issue. I think was that a Jeff Loeb Ed McGuinness issue?
It was definitely Ed McGuinness. I definitely remember Ed McGuinness being the artist. But he did appear in the last issue on that computer screen that you had. No, that's Power. Sorry.
Oh, you mean Power Company?
That was in Power Company.
Yeah. That story will be collected in the Blacklightning trade, by the way. I think I can say that comfortably.
Oh, that's dope. That's a trade to have, because that was actually
that'll definitely be in there, along with a couple other things that we'll talk about later.
Is Grace the same as she was before power-wise? Did Absolute Power Enhance change her as well? That's a good question.
I believe Grace's power set is the same as it was before. She's been appearing in, I believe, Birds of Prey, and so we didn't. I don't think the creators there made any alterations to her power set.
Okay. Next. You should call the empowered Pierce family Black Excellence. Wow.
I would love to do that. I wrote a book called Excellence, so I don't want people to think
I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty good. It kind of set all of this into motion. So
little John called Excellence, I've heard of.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what's happening with Bronze Tiger and Vixen? Do you see yourself using them in any stories or potential stories in the future? I love Black Love. Well, I hate to break it to you, Damon. I think she has moved on with one of the Fox boys, right?
Oh, is it Jace or Luke?
I want to say it was Luke Fox.
Okay.
Batman? I think in DC Power, like a year or two ago.
Okay.
With one of the Fox brothers.
Also, Vixen, I believe, appears in the Power Company one-shot that's coming out in April that's written by Brian Hill.
Yeah.
So you'll definitely be getting more Vixen there.
Were the classic giant robot animes the inspiration for Isaac's Metal Gauntlet?
I don't know. Could be. I don't know. Anything that touches anything that's like Evangelion, like I'm about. That is like my all-time #1 favorite anime of all time, like by a lot. So anything that kind of touches on to those characters or those designs, I am all about.
Any chance of Quran drawing an issue to give the current artist a small break? I guess it depends if the show continues.
I would love that, and I'll give you a tiny peek at that document that I turned in to DC for potential future Black Lightning stories. I kind of built the stories to have these little kind of one-issue gaps in between them. So that could definitely be a vehicle to get Quran on some interiors.
Charles Stewart says, I just had a dope thought on how Jefferson could actually go toe-to-toe with Superman. Shh, keep it IB to yourself.
Yeah, we may need it for later. So
yeah. I love Anissa and Grace's relationship in the comics, and since Grace is showing up in the next issue, I was wondering if there is anything you can tell us about their relationship in the book.
It's complicated, but they do have a. I shouldn't say anything. Stay tuned. Read the 5th issue.
Next issue.
Yeah, next issue. We can't like, again, we don't have too much space, but I found like a very kind of economical way to allow them to have like this kind of nice moment in the middle of this big fight scene. So
will the Outsiders get together?
I think they actually did an Outsiders book recently that was kind of, if anyone remembers Planetary by Warren Ellis and John Cassaday, rest in peace. I believe they have done an Outsiders book, but Outsiders always pops up, kind of over and over again. So I'm sure there will be another book that's either a continuation of that book or something completely different. I had the beginnings of an Outsiders pitch a couple of years ago, so maybe I'll dust it off and see.
Can Blacklightning use his powers to manipulate electromagnetic effects?
I mean, I think so in certain respects. I mean, not in the sense where he has kind of like full on, Magneto abilities, but I think there are some things that he could probably do around the margins, playing with that power set. So, like I said, I would love to have more time with him and with his family to explore, his power set and potentially where that power set comes from, without spoiling things. But yeah, definitely more. That we just need space and opportunity, and we can do a lot of things. I mean, unfortunately there's only so much that can be done because the series is 100 pages total, and so there are very real limits to what you can do in 100 pages. And so I really feel like I'm just really like scratching the surface of his power set, his relationships, his status, and so we just need a little more, and we can do even more, and we can expand and explore, and there's always more to do.
Since you are a Neon Genesis fan, please check out the current Gundam series because Hideaki Anno is writing it and his studio is producing.
Oh, okay, that's exciting.
Okay.
What's we're just like talking in the chat now. What's it called? Is it Gundam something or?
Yeah, there's always
Yeah, always some kind of like subtitle or something. But just give me the whole thing.
Sounds like Brandon is going to reveal that Jefferson is blessed. That's the source of his electrical powers. Wouldn't that be cool?
Let's just say it's something that we've been talking about. Not that specifically, but talking about that question: where do these powers come from? And are the powers that they have now, is that the end point? Is that the end point of their ability, or is there a step further? Just think, is there, I'm like totally giving it away now. Is there a reason that Anissa's powers came back different and enhanced than how they left? So we'll see. Hopefully someday. But we have been talking about that a lot, about the source of their kind of meta gene and stuff. I'll just be quiet now.
You revealed quite a bit, actually. You always say too much. That's why I've been left
that is true. That is 100% true. I am always saying too much.
Just don't get Marquise Draper after us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
Thank you
for being on the show. Another dope episode. Thank you, chat, for all your great questions. Why don't we have more likes? What's going on, guys? I need some more likes. Share the video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, but it lets you know when we bring you more content like this in the future. We are going to give you a quick commercial on our outro before we leave you all tonight. So check it out. Oh, next week, big show. Well, kind of big show. We're only having pretty big, massive legends, a milestone celebration. We're celebrating and you guys are the first to hear about this, by the way. So we're having a milestone celebration next week of the last issue of Shadow Cabinet by joeillidge. Our next episode of Shadow Factor, he will be bringing on Dennis Cowan, Reggie Hudlin, Ray Anthony Height, Daryl Banks, and Chris Sotomayor to talk about that final issue and Milestone Comics.
I was looking at that. I'm like, is that Soto? I know who that is. Who is
Exactly. This is
I've worked with Soto in the past. He colored Noble for Lion Forge. Great colors. Super nice dude.
Tremendous talent. Yes. This is a milestone party. So I invite each and every one of you, please bring a plate or a bottle or something as you come. You know, I'm going to object to the potluck. Milestone party next week. You're all invited. Please show up. Tell a friend. This is another reason why you got to share the video. You got to tell people what's going on. Let them know about this major event. This is pretty cool, and we're very excited about it. And we might have some cool stuff for you as well. All right.
Cool.
So with that,
Dr. Wizard, next month. Giveaways.
Next month. We out. Black Comic Lords. We got you.
What's good, comic fan? It's finally happened. We're actually going to start selling our Black Comic Lord t-shirts. But not just any Black Comic Lord t-shirts. No. When we decided to do this, we knew we had to get with the right partners. So we got with Jay Winston from Winston's Wham, and we also got with the fabulous artist, Otis Arterberry. Anybody can just throw a cover on the shirt, but we wanted to make this special. So without further ado, this is the final product. Orders will be going out as soon as you guys get your orders in. So let's take a look. Now this is more like it. So what you're going to get here is you're going to get a Black Comic Lord variant with the Charlie Brown theme, but we're going with Franklin, and we're showing all of the dope Black key comics. Let's take a closer look. I can't believe they even squeezed all these keys together. As a matter of fact, I gotta go grab some of these keys. They got first Black Panther, Tomb of Dracula 10, which is first Blade. They got Black Man right here, which is a dope book. They got Gunhawks, Weird Fantasy, Brother Voodoo, several different Black Panther books, Lobo #1, Lobo #2. I mean, it is jam-packed full of key Black comics. Oh, and did I tell you, Willie Cordy Jr. is also involved in this project? You absolutely got to buy one now. Speaking of Willie Cordy, he was also the artist behind the very first Black Comic Lord variant, which Franklin is holding in his hand. And don't get me started on his satchel. Man, I need that bag. We might have to negotiate a deal for a bag. Get your orders in now. Oh yeah, I'll leave the website to where you guys can order in the description and also in the headline. Make sure y'all go pick one up. Black Comic Lords, baby.